Okay, I think we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob Fitzpatrick. I'm with White Star Software, and we're talking about OpenEdge diagnostic data collection. So stick around for that if you want more info. So some of these I've already talked about. Some I haven't. These were some minor bugs that we encountered with DDC. This first one is just a documentation bug. There were actually more CSV files that you get data from than are listed in the docs. You get AI logging as well as file detail, which is, I believe, from the _act.io file you see. This one is just kind of an annoyance. The timestamps are down to the millisecond, so there's millisecond precision, but they're only accurate to the second. So the millisecond portion will always be 000. That's been reported and is apparently fixed in 13. And again, the diag_proc parameter just doesn't work at all. So use the hard-coded name and you'll be fine, which is either diag_proc or diag_proc.xu.bat. Another bug that Tom encountered later on was that we had 4 events in very short succession, 1 a system error and 3 block table overflows, and the event directories that should have had CSV files in them for the lock table overflow events were empty, but the files were actually written into the system error event directory, so that all the data was there, it was just some of it was in the wrong place. So if you have an event and you have an empty directory, go look in some other directories near that one, and you should find the files that you're looking for. And this one, I would say it's not so much a bug as just an unfortunate collection of circumstances. The configuration, the very large lock table, and very high detail level, generating that many protraces with events that close together meant that most of what the system was doing was generating protraces. So those clients were just unusable during that time. I wouldn't worry about generating protraces, if the events happen once in a while. Like a BI threshold, you're not going to have them constantly, right? But for the other events that can happen in short succession, just be cautious with that if you have a large system, lots of users. And again, the CSC data was in _connect, but it wasn't always in the CSV files. Another little minor bug, the domain number, which is part of the output for users, was incorrect. This is a screenshot from Promon showing the correct domain ID, -4 for a self-service user. There were no domain names used. It's not a multi-type database or anything, but that's just the number you see is -4. But when that was output, we got this 20-digit number. So I suspect that was treating assigned integer as an unsigned. And, so the effect is it just wrote more data into the file than it should. So unless you're parsing domain IDs for some reason, that's not going to affect you. It's really just a cosmetic issue. So wrapping up, DDC isn't in and of itself sort of a complete solution that's going to get you right to the root cause of your problem. What it's going to do is generate data for you to look at, but it's up to you to know that an event has happened in the first place, either by looking at your logs or looking in that tracking file. And then number 2, you have to parse that data. So if you're going to be looking at these a lot, then you're going to want to write some parsing code or have some workflow, maybe to bring it into Excel or a database or something like that, so that you can consume these files and figure out what are the causes. But there certainly is the data there that you need to determine that. I wouldn't recommend this feature for everybody, and that's not a knock on DDC at all. It's just more a commentary on the fact that not all OpenEdge environments are the same operationally. Not all databases are equally loved. If this is a hands-off environment, if there isn't a DBA there, if nobody's actually going to look at this data, then don't turn it on. All you're going to do is chew up disk space and CPU cycles by generating this data that nobody's going to look at. But if you've got these issues and you've got developers who are willing to actually look at the bugs that you bring to them, this is a highly valuable feature. So, a couple of rough edges, and I would say I don't love the logging level, how some aspects of it are tied to others, but that certainly doesn't put me off using this feature. We use it at client sites, and it's very valuable, and for particularly things like lock table overflow and to a lesser extent the BI threshold events, it's hard to beat in terms of getting the data that you need to find the root cause. And all of these bugs that we've encountered have been reported to tech support. Some of them are already fixed in 12.8 and others will be fixed in 13, so I expect it to become more polished over time, certainly. So I mentioned that we had submitted some ideas to the ideas portal. Feel free to go log in there and vote them up so we can get product management looking at them. And as I mentioned at the outset, this feature was originally described as a framework, suggesting that it could be extended to more than just the event types that we have now. So again, if there are events that you think of that you think would be useful to incorporate into DDC, again, please make your voice heard. It would also be nice if there was some parsing code from Progress to save us each the hassle of having to write that for ourselves. So maybe we'll see that in a future release as well. So, should you use DDC? In my opinion, yes. There are, as I said, a couple of rough edges, but there's nothing that's a showstopper. There's nothing that should prevent you from using it. Be cautious with it. In the events that I mentioned at this client site, we wrote 8.5 gigabytes of diagnostic data in the span of 4 minutes. So most of that was due to the detailed logging of the lock table when there's big L-million. So it won't necessarily be that much for you. And of course, you hopefully won't have that many events in a short span of time. But just be cognizant of that. Again, it's a very powerful way of diagnosing events that you weren't necessarily there to see at the time they happened. And I love the extensibility of it, that you can write your own code to have the database run to collect more data, the kind of data that you want to see in your output files.